Everyone, welcome back to Tina Teach Python Inheritance. Today we'll be learning what is inheritance, how does it work, and how do you code it, okay? First off, with inheritance, in Python, inheritance is a concept that allows us to create a class that will inherit all of the methods and properties of another class that has already been created and have been assigned those traits, those properties and classes. Now, the class that's been inherited from, it's called the parent class or the base class. And then the class that takes the properties of another class or inherits another class is called a child class or a derived class, okay? These names are quite straightforward, base, foundation. The class that gets inherited from is parent, and the class that inherits or derives is the child, okay? So it's very helpful to have these sort of keywords that sound like comparisons and analogies to help you remember further. Let's move on to the next part, how to create a parent class. A parent class and a child class is not some special type of class. They are just regular classes, okay? What makes them a parent and what makes them a child is whether or not they get inherited from or they inherit traits or properties, okay? As I've said, any class can be a parent class. Here I have a class named friend with the classic init function with the parameter self, name, and age. Obviously, self.name is name and self.age is age. Now I have an additional function, print name and age, using the self parameter just as it says. It prints the name and the age that you pass into the class. Then I have a variable using the class friend, and I'm passing in Beth and 23. Now, as you can see, Beth and 23 are both strings. Why do I make them both strings? 23 could just be an integer. Sometimes with printing out values in a class, if you combine different types of values, it may result in an error. A classic of that is, let's say instead of just printing the name and the age, you want to append them to additional strings. For example, you can say like, my best friend is append self-name, and then she is, append self-age. If you make the age an integer, this will return an error because obviously, how is Python supposed to combine a string and an integer? Now, I'm just taking the easy route and making what is supposed to be an integer into a string. And I just print it using the variable person, calling the function print name and age, no parameter. That's it. So now that we've created our parent class, let's move on to creating a child class. Now, if you want your child to inherit basically everything from the parent, no more, no less, you don't want any extra, you don't want any add-ons, you can just use the pass statement for an empty class, okay? The pass statement bypasses any error that pops up from having an empty class, as I've mentioned in lesson number 55, I think. Yeah, the one that's before this. And I have, once again, person, just as I've did with the parent class. Child and parent, same thing, they're not special classes. And barista, okay, so barista here is, the empty class. And I've put in Mark and 33, and then I'm using the print name and age function that I've had here in the parent class, okay? So basically the child class inherits all of these things. It's as if you've typed them in here yourself instead of the pass statement, and you can just simply put in whatever input you want, right? 33 here, I'm making it a string, once again taking the easy route. And if you print them, right, it's going to be the exact same format over here, but with different values. Class, friend, def, init, self, name, age, self, name equals to names, self, age equals to age, def, print, name and age, self, print, self, name, and then self and age. Okay. Next up, person equals to friend, Beth, then 44. Person, print, name, and age. Okay. Now that we're done with the parent class, let's move on to the child class. Class, barista, friend, pass, person, barista, mark, 22, person, print, name and age. All right, now let's see how this works. So as you can see here, we have Beth 44 for the parent class, and then Mark 22 for the child class. Even though the child class is empty, it borrows everything up here from the friend class or the parent class, and it can handle itself. Okay, so as I mentioned with the string and string, let's try with string and integer. Okay, as you can see here, string and integer is all fine. String and string is all fine. Why? Because we're just printing the name and the age, right? If I try to append these, right? If I just put that, my friend is, and I try running it, as you can see, can only concatenate string, not integer to string. But if I make this into a string, it's all good. My friend is, well, there's no spacing, right? So there's no spacing in between these, or I did not concatenate any, spacing here. So it's stuck together like that. And as you can see, once the parent is modified, the child goes, right? Now let's try adding spacing here. And then we have spacing, right? But this does not translate to the barista class or the child class, but because this value is only for the parent class, the friend class, right? If you want the barista class to inherit whatever the friend class has, it's better to just concatenate a space. We print it. There we go. Now it's in both classes. So thank you for watching until the end. I do hope that you learned something new. Our next topic is going to be about functions and inheritance, an extension of this lesson, okay? Because inheritance is a very important concept, and it's a bit more in-depth than other things that we've learned. So don't forget to like and subscribe, comment any questions that you have, and learn today, better tomorrow, and have a wonderful day.